Salvē, amiche, and welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at John chapter 4, verses 37 and 38. But first, last time in John chapter 4. There we have it. Here is our text. Here is the rubric, everything that we look for as we go through the text. Let's get started. En hoc enim est verbum verum, quia alius est qui seminat et alius est qui metit. Ego misi vos mettere quod vos non laborastis alii laboraverunt, et vos in laborem eorum introistis. There we go. Starting off, we have a prepositional phrase, in hoc. Enim is the wrong type of word, even to be part of this prepositional phrase, so that ends right there. In with hoc is going to be taking either a dative or ablative. This is from hic, haec, hoc. So we have the neuter form of the demonstrative right there. And as I'm thinking about this, it could be both stupid brain. It could be both accusative and ablative because of how the neuter demonstratives works. It's been a while since I've gone through my charts of the Latin demonstratives. It's been a very, very busy time, as I'm sure it has also been for you. Anyway, so either accusative or ablative. It just entirely depends on what function that we want out of this. So I'm actually going to have to leave that alone until we figure out the rest of this clause. Enim is just our normal word for. Est, this is a verb we've seen many times, no need to parse it. Verbum right there. Est doesn't want an accusative, so verbum will be of the neuter verb. It makes most sense as a nominative singular neuter. And then verum with the matches it in form, and it's going to be the predicate. Quia introduces a new clause, so we need to stop right there. So at the very least we have for word is true. Okay, word is true in hoc. The word is true into this, which would be the accusative showing motion. Well, we don't want that. This is clearly a mental concept, or it's speaking about previous words spoken or previous events. So ablative is the correct for that, because it's just showing place, or we might even say circumstances. Accusative is wrong. And of course, neuter is what Greek and Latin both use when they're talking about undefined concepts, or when they're talking about events that have taken place or words that have been spoken. Speeches, I should say. A speech. So I want to be very careful to note that this is not linking with verbum. And the way that I know that is because of how the Greek functions. In the Greek, we have the verb tutoi, which is with the sub iota right here going to be a dative, which corresponds to our ablative in the Latin. And since verbum and logos in the Greek are both the subjects, neither of them can be linked with the respective demonstratives of their language. So this has to refer to something else, which means I'm going to have to put in brackets thing, just to make sure that the distinction is clear. And this is referring to what Jesus has just done or just said. I actually don't remember. It's been so long. Verum, true. Quia, that. Quia can introduce direct statements, indirect statements, or it can be the word because. So we need to take a look at the rest of the clause to figure out what it actually is. It's not going to be the word because, almost. It will be. I actually have the number of times quia is the word because written down somewhere. In the book of John, not the whole Bible. That would be quite the accomplishment. But anyway, alius, ius, us right there as our nominative singular masculine ending. Est, don't need to parse that, seen that before. Qui with that I is going to be nominative, and with alius being singular, qui also will need to be singular to match it in a person and number as masculine. So we have a finished clause right here. That alias we would normally translate as another or other. However, we're going to need to hold off on that check. Do we have another alias? Which we see we do right there. Another us, nominative, singular, masculine, which means we need to translate this in a different way than if we just found it alone. So we have the two of them. The way that we do it in English is, of course, the one and the other. Who, semi-not at right there for a third singular present, active, and indicative. I know that it is present because this is semino, seminare, a first conjugation verb. So that one is who sows. Et and alius, another, is another qui. Don't need to parse either of these. Metit, it right there for third singular. This is from meto, metere, a third conjugation. It's not the word for fear. Fear. Sorry. It's not the word for fear, as I think I talked about in the previous video. Present tense, active, and indicative. Another is who harvests or reaps. I don't know. I don't remember if I've been using the word reap. Probably. New clause here. Ego. Emphatic since we don't need it. Already having the person in misi, our first singular. That's a 3. First singular. Mito mitare misi, perfect tense. Active and indicative. I myself. Sent direct object, which we see here with wos, accusative, plural, and common, because it's for both masculine and feminine, and in the rare cases, neuter. That would be if you're talking to little children, since the normal word for little children in classical languages is neuter. Metere, re right there, just confirming that this is a third declension with ere infinitive off of metit, from the same word as metit. Present tense, active, and infinitive. Quod, from qui, quae, quod. This is going to be nominative or accusative. Since metere wants an accusative, that makes most sense for quod as its object. Vos non laborastis. Rather than tis as our ending, we have stis. So this comes from laboro, laborare, laboravi, laboratum, I want to say. But we don't have a V here, which is what we should expect with a perfect stem. So what we would expect to see from classical Latin is laboravistis with the AVIS. But the V's gone. And we've actually seen this happen before. Off the top of my head, I can't remember what verse this is, but I think it may even be the same verb. And this does happen with a lot of first conjugation verbs, and I think one or two other non-first conjugation verbs. There's, I think in Psalm 31 it happens, but that's the only one I know offhand, and only because I assigned it once as a memorization project for students, and I don't know if any of the students took that up. I think they all went for either the Lord's Prayer or something else. Psalm 23 is longer. Anyway, so what we will have to mentally insert is VI right there so that we know that this is a second person plural, perfect tense, active, and indicative, with wos now as a nominative plural, common. Harvest what you have not labored. And insert the word for right there, just for English. Alii, I right there, is going to be our nominative plural masculine. Laboraverunt, erunt as our ending. And note the V has suddenly come back in this form of the verb, so it really only happened with the second person plural, which I think is also how we saw it the last time. Man, it's been months. I don't remember. For Psalm 23, it would be Latin Psalm 22. I don't remember the person of that. But it might have been also a second person or a first person, because the first person will also do it, like nosco, noscere. I think that verb has a alternate perfect. Anyway, third plural, perfect tense, active, indicative, and accusative or nominative, prepositional phrase, em right there, so plus accusative at least for the prepositional phrase. Eorum is the wrong form to be part. This is going to be singular, labor, laboris, labori. I do not remember the gender of this verb. And there's no other word, not verb, this word, there's no other word around to identify it clearly. So I'm going to have to put that in a note. Sorry, mental failure in preparation. And also in gap between preparation and actually doing this video. Anyway, singular, whatever the gender is, not that it's too important, but this is the sort of stuff that one should work to ingrain in the memory so that it makes reading Latin easier going on. Anyway, eorum, O-R-U-M right there from is, ea, id. This is going to be genitive, plural, masculine. Enthroistis, S-T-I-S there as our N-E-N-I, sort of as the linking vowel. Second person, plural, perfect, active, indicative. And this is, of course, from inthroeo. And there I go, using the word of course again, the phrase. I'm sorry. I said I would try not to do that anymore. Of course, I am failing. My apologies. So, since this is second person, we know that this needs to be nominative, plural. And you, again, assuming all. Inthroeo, to enter into, have accusative showing motion. Eorum being a reference back to alii. And there we have it. Let's take a look at it in its own context. For in this thing, event, saying, which I should remember, word is true, that one is who sows and another is who harvests. I myself, sent you all to harvest for what you have not labored. Others labored, and you have entered into their labor. So basically what Jesus is saying is that there have been others who came before the apostles who were preparing Israel, and frankly the Gentiles as well, to be part of the harvest of souls that we see at Pentecost. So this would be the prophets that Jesus is talking about who have been preparing. And then also people like Simeon and Anna, they come to mind because we had the first Sunday after Christmas, which is the reading from Luke 2, unless you did the St. John reading. And of course it's Simeon who gives witness that the Christ child is the Savior sent to the world. And he's the one that says, Lord, now you let your servant depart in peace. The, not introit, Song of Simeon. I can't remember what the Latin term is. I'm a complete mental wreck. I'm sorry. But anyway, so people like Simeon and Anna and the prophets have been proclaiming this and been preparing the people for it. So they've done all of the work to prepare the fields, and Jesus is saying now he is sending, or really he has sent the apostles out, and they will harvest what others worked to prepare. So anyway, there we have it. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope taking a look at this has been helpful for you, and I hope that you have a very good day. And a happy week after New Year's. So happy Epiphany. Wale.